Part 15. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 142. Akane Shinjo tried her best to keep the smile on her face. Do not know why. When Akane Shinjo saw Nango having female friends, she felt even more uncomfortable than if she had no friends. She stood there, not knowing how to speak. But that's it? Kita Ikuyo, who was talking to Nang Xiangxi, found her standing behind Nang Xiangxi. The other party smiled and took the initiative to say hello. Senjo Shinjo is here, hello. Hello. Akane Shinjo responded in a low voice. Now she didn't know what to say, so she could only nod, pack her student shoulder bag, and prepare to leave. And that's when she was about to leave. Nang Xiangxi's voice came from behind. New article. Akane Shinjo turned around subconsciously. Then, she saw the surprised expression on Nang Xiangxi's handsome face. Shinjo, don't you have any friends? Why go home alone? Shinjo Akane. That's what I want to say. These are the lines I want to say to you. Akane Shinjo covered her heart with her hands. At this moment, she really felt what angina felt like. It's just today. A hearty smile appeared on Akane Shinjo's face. But even this smile seemed to bring an indescribable sense of sadness when it fell into the eyes of Kita Ikuyo and the others. It's okay, just come with us, Shinjo-senpai. Kita Ikuyo showed a sympathetic expression and hesitated for a moment to put forward his idea. It would be too pitiful for a person to go home alone. Why yet? Even Goto Ichiri next to him stammered and spoke in a low voice. She couldn't help but look at Akane Shinjo. Unexpectedly, Shinjo-senpai, who is at the top of the school's food chain, would go home alone just like she did in junior high school. This is too pitiful. After all, I still have Nang Xiangtoki and Kita Ikuyo. But Shinjo-senpai had nothing. Thinking of this, Goto Ichiri looked at Akane Shinjo with eyes full of sympathy. Shinjo Akane. If anything is more hurtful to her than a knife, then it was probably the sympathetic looks of others. This is something she, with her own pride, would absolutely not tolerate. It's okay. Really. It's just that my friend is not around today. Akane Shinjo simply responded to the sentence, and then quickly left towards the entrance without hesitation. She bit her lower lip and took her phone out of her pocket as she walked. No friend. Say I have no friends. Recalling what Nango had just said, Akane Shinjo made the call without hesitation. Ah, I'm sorry, is it Asada-san? I'm already done with the karaoke thing. Yes, I want to go there now. Huh? It's almost over? Okay, then forget it. Send line message. Oh my, I'm so happy, does anyone want to come out and play together? Staring at the phone screen, Shinjo Akane became very anxious. In the past, only a few people responded to the lively line group. But the words that came out of his mouth were words like it's too late and we've already had dinner, let's talk about it tomorrow, Shinjo-san. Shinjo Akane stopped moving forward in silence. No friend? Look at the nicknames noted online as Friend No 1 and Friend No 2. Shinjo Akane, who was operating her cell phone, stopped her fingers. What are you doing, she murmured to herself. It's really stupid. It seemed like he was talking to himself or muttering something. When thinking back to Nangxiang, don't you have any friends, new article's words. The girl with pink and purple hair who had never opened her heart to others bit her lower lip again. Chapter 127. Spend the night at Nangxiang's house? 4,100 words. I have never treated others sincerely. It is naturally impossible for others to treat themselves sincerely. Akane Shinjo has always understood this simple truth. But understand the truth and practical experience. This is two things in itself. In fact, I am essentially a very lonely person. There is no one who is willing to communicate sincerely, and no one is willing to communicate sincerely with me. Akane Shinjo knew this, but she had always ignored it. The people around her. Or just because I feel comfortable communicating with her. Or maybe it's because of her cute appearance and disguised cheerful personality. That's all. As for the people who are willing to communicate with her sincerely in recent times. Shinjo Akane, who was walking on the street at a loss, thought for a long time. The image of Nangxiang gradually emerged in my mind. Yes. This was something she didn't expect at all. But Nangxiang, she was indeed different from other boys who took the initiative to approach him. From the moment they met, this person never considered his own feelings when speaking. Even if I ask with a cute expression that almost no one can refuse. When we arrived at Nangxiang, we were only exhausted. That man didn't seem to care what methods or measures he took. None were moved. Still acting his own way. Unexpectedly, people who are willing to treat themselves sincerely. He is actually someone he hates. She couldn't help but think a little self-deprecatingly. Akane Shinjo continued to walk forward. She didn't know exactly where she was now. But, it doesn't matter. Anyway, there is no other person in the family except myself. Just find somewhere to have something to eat and then go home. Thinking of this, Akane Shinjo was just about to move forward. However, point first. Then there's the line. The water droplets mixed with the moist wind hit Akane Shinjo's face. Tough luck. It's really unlucky. The moment I noticed the heavy rain falling, Akane Shinjo was already trying to run forward. But the raindrops that hit his head and face were completely merciless. Ahead is an almost endless stream of heavy rain that forms a curtain of water. There are no convenience stores around for the time being. Just when Akane Shinjo thought she could barely see the way ahead. What are you doing? Why? An overly familiar voice came from beside me, and at the same time, I held up an umbrella. Akane Shinjo turned her face to the side in astonishment, and then she saw the black-haired young man staring at her. Nangxiang. She opened her mouth, showing an expression that she didn't expect at all. Yes. Indeed, I didn't expect it at all. Why did she meet Nangxiang at this time? Shouldn't we be together with that pink-haired gloomy girl and Kita Ikuyo when we were in Nango? My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 143. How could it appear in a place like this? Wait. When looking at Nango appearing in front of her, Akane Shinjo suddenly had a bold idea. Could it be that Nangxiang deliberately left Kita Ikuyo and the pink-haired gloomy girl behind and came to find her? Is it because you are worried about her condition? Yes. When you think about it this way, it makes perfect sense. Akane Shinjo completely forgot about Nango Toki's previous behavior. She is the charming Shinjo Akane at school. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Akane Shinjo's pretty face again. It surprised me that, although Nangxiang she said he disliked her, he actually cared about her. But if you think about it carefully, this is of course. After all, Nangxiang she is also a boy. Although she was a little tougher, she certainly couldn't resist her charm. At this moment, Akane Shinjo regained her confidence and calmness. What are you thinking? Why don't you go forward? A calm voice came from beside her, bringing Akane Shinjo back to reality. Humph, compared to this kind of thing, why didn't you and Kita-san act together, Nangxiang-san? Aren't you going to go home together? With a protracted voice, Akane Shinjo turned her head and asked confidently. Why would you say such a thing in a place like this? Nangxiang looked at Akane Shinjo inexplicably and casually told the reason. Didn't you read the text message? I just sent it, saying that there will be heavy rainfall, there may be a typhoon landing, and the trams may be suspended. Today's activities with them are cancelled. My home is nearby, and I happen to meet you. At this point, Nan Xiangxi frowned. Can we go? Oh, home is right here, what a coincidence. The more Akane Shinjo listened to Nang Xiang's words, the more she felt that the other party just couldn't worry about her and came out to look for her. You want to know how there can be so many coincidences? Heavy rainfall? Typhoon? Your home happens to be nearby? This is too much of a coincidence. Reality is not writing novels. How could there be so many overlapping coincidences? Are you leaving or not? Nang Xiangxi asked again. Hey, what should we do? Akane Shinjo narrowed her beautiful eyes. Do not know why. She gave in for the first time when she saw Nang Xiang. She actually felt excited and felt that even if she agreed to Nang Xiang, it would be okay to go to his house for a while. But, no matter what, Shinjo Akane can actually be sure of it. Nang Xiangxi would never leave a weak girl like her alone in the heavy rain. Then when she saw Nango, she held an umbrella and walked forward without looking back, a fool who stayed here with Akane Shinjo in the rain. Why? Go, go. Really gone? She walked further and further away when looking at Nang Xiang, not even willing to look back at her. All the calmness and illusions Shinjo Akane had before were shattered at this time. She braved the rain and ran towards Nang Xiang in embarrassment. Wait. Wait for me. Nang Xiang-san. Sitting in the low-rent house in Nangxiang, Akane Shinjo was reading the news with a dull look on her face. Because everything is just as Nang Xiang said. Sudden heavy rainfall and the arrival of a typhoon may cause the suspension of transportation such as trams. Nang Xiang didn't lie. After all, Japan is an island country. Sudden heavy rainfall and typhoons do often occur. This is why many Japanese literary and artistic works like to use the theme of rain in writing. Similarly, it is normal for trams to be suspended due to the landfall of a typhoon. Akane Shinjo's eyes were dull. She unconsciously took the tram and wandered to this place, and her home in Nangxiang happened to be here. Then due to heavy rainfall, the other party had to go home early to meet him. Everything is such a coincidence. Think of this. Akane Shinjo couldn't help but look towards the bathroom. Just behind the thin glass door, Nan Xiangxi was taking a shower. Being in the same room as an adolescent boy. This is something Akane Shinjo doesn't want to think about, nor dares to think about. Just when she was about to do something to divert her attention. Wow! The bathroom door opens. At the same time, Nan Xiangxi walked out of it while wiping his hair. Akane Shinjo subconsciously raised her eyes to look. Then, she found that she couldn't take her eyes away. Even though she still had some prejudice against Nangxiang, she couldn't help but sigh in a low voice at this time. It's so beautiful. Yes. When I was in Nangxiang, my skin was fair and red just after taking a bath, and my short, wet hair had an indescribable charm. Under the light, his facial features were somewhat deep, lacking the usual delicate and clean feeling, and looked mature and handsome. If you can't control your expression perfectly. Shinjo Akane estimates that she is almost drooling now. Etc. Slobber. My perfect beautiful girl. Slobber. Making such an embarrassing expression to a boy of the same age? After reacting, Akane Shinjo wiped the empty corners of her mouth vigorously. Then. New article. Why? Are not you cold? While Nango was wiping his hair, he put down the towel and asked Akane Shinjo. Cold. As soon as Nang Xiangxi opened his mouth, Shinjo Akane actually felt cold. After all, he only had a uniform on him, and it was soaked by the rain. Including the stockings she had been wearing, it could be said to be wet at this time, revealing a bit of the color of a girl's skin. Why don't you go take a shower when it's cold? Do you want me to beg you? Nang Xiangxi glanced sideways at her and asked, then threw her a set of sportswear. Then, he drove the confused Akane Shinjo into the bathroom. What? That guy. After being forced into the bathroom by Nangxiang, Akane Shinjo opened her mouth. She really experienced the first time in various senses from Nangxiang Shi today. But, standing in the bathroom, Akane Shinjo's slender body trembled. It's indeed a bit cold. She rubbed her hands together. Look at the hot water filling the bathtub. Akane Shinjo hesitated for a while, then took off her soaked clothes and put them into the laundry basket. After briefly rinsing her hair to make it fully moist, Akane Shinjo glanced at the shampoo placed in front of her. That guy, does he also smell like this? Look at the shampoo in your hand. Shinjo Akane didn't know what she thought of, and her fair little face soaked in the mist turned a little red. No, never mind. After all, there is nothing we can do about it. Not sure who she was stressing to, Akane Shinjo took a deep breath, applied the shampoo evenly, and then rinsed her hair. Then apply shower gel and wash your body. After these actions are completed, feel free to enter the bathtub and soak for a while. After hesitating for a long time and not taking a whiff of Nangxiang's sportswear, she reluctantly put it on. But wearing Nangxiang's sportswear always made her feel uncomfortable all over her body. Like just a simple breath. They can all smell the same smell as when they were in Nangxiang. It made her feel restless. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 144. With a red face and a guilty conscience, she quietly walked out of the bathroom. Then he saw Nangxiang Shi sitting at the table, taking out the manuscript paper, frowning, wondering what he was thinking. That is. Shinjo Akane blinked Akane's red eyes in surprise. She was very familiar with that manuscript paper. It was the manuscript that Nangxiang said he would use to pad the table. What does this guy want to do now when he takes this thing out? Could it be that I want to mock her again through what she wrote? This character is too bad, right? With this thought in mind, Akane Shinjo quietly and tiptoed came to Nangxiang behind her. Then, Shinjo Akane was stunned when she saw it. I saw that the original manuscript was now densely packed with notes. Which areas could be modified and which plot points could be improved were all left in the original manuscript by Nangxiang Shi in an extremely delicate way. Akane Shinjo's expression became very subtle. The one who keeps criticizing himself. Nangxiang Shi looked disgusted with himself. Are you actually helping yourself improve the novel script? This was something she didn't expect at all. She thought the man in front of her would only be good at making her angry. Have you seen it almost? Shintiao. Well. Nangxiang Shi suddenly spoke. Akane Shinjo, who was still staring attentively, was stunned for a moment. Then her face turned red unconsciously and she opened her mouth. Nangxiang, are you saying that you just treat this manuscript as table mat? To be honest, Akane Shinjo really couldn't say this word. It is impossible to say that it is used as a table mat. No matter how you say it, it is a carefully created thing. Nangxiang Shi answered calmly and put away her manuscript. Is that so? I don't know why, but I am obviously sought after by many boys in the class, and they pay all kinds of attention to me. But those things never caused her any psychological fluctuations. But only when I said the sentence in Nangxiang. However, Shinjo Akane could clearly feel that there was an indescribable feeling of joy running in her heart. Perhaps it was because his manuscript was taken seriously by Nangxiang Shi. Or maybe it's because of other unspeakable reasons. This feeling is very wrong. Something is really wrong. She is obviously the woman who has always been at the top of the emotional food chain. No matter, any boy is willing to take the initiative to communicate with himself and take the initiative to help himself. But why are you happy because of such a small thing in Nangxiang? She should obviously be that little devil-like character. Akane Shinjo's face turned red again, and she couldn't help but secretly glance at Nangxiangshi again. But after noticing his actions, Akane Shinjo felt regret again in her heart. No. Why do I secretly look at this guy who is always bullying me? She scolded herself in her heart, but her eyes still looked towards Nangxiangshi from time to time. This is probably due to spending too much time in the bathroom. Maybe it's because my head is dizzy. She drank some water, cleared her head, and was about to say something to liven up the atmosphere. Then I heard Nangxiangshi take the initiative to speak. So, Xintiao, what are you going to do next? What do you mean? Akane Shinjo looked confused. Nangxiangshi. Looking at the state of the girl's brain in front of him that seemed to be completely shut down, Nangxiangshi shook his head speechlessly, and then said, "What are you going to do where you live today?" Residence. Shinjo Akane heard what Nangxiang said and finally understood what he meant. A strong typhoon lands in Tokyo. Trams are out of service. It's raining so hard outside that taxis will most likely not take passengers. And since I am a minor, I can't stay in a hotel no matter what I think. Well, that's the rest of the way. Staying overnight at Nangxiang's house. This moment, Akane Shinjo's brain had just been activated. It was down again. Chapter 128. Poor Xintiao is manipulated, 4,000 words. What are you going to do at your place today? Nangxiangshi's question was very simple. Same. It also goes to the core of the problem. Shinjo Akane's perfectly disguised expression was a little unbearable at this moment. Sudden heavy rainfall and the landing of a typhoon left her stranded at her home in Nangxiang. But, if we want to stay overnight at Shijiya in Nangxiang, that's two different things again. Akane Shinjo is indeed like a little devil. But in all senses, she was still a novice when it came to staying at a boy's house. No, not just staying at a boy's house, but even staying outside was almost impossible for her. Nangxiang-san. Akane Shinjo swallowed, stretched out her white fingers, and still had a sense of luck. Can you lend me an umbrella? Can. Nangxiang still looked the same, without even looking at her, and answered casually. Akane Shinjo stood up holding the paper bag containing her clothes in one hand and Nangoshi's umbrella in the other. Then he walked to the entrance in his slippers. Reach out. Pull the door open. Then call. Under the dark sky. The terrifying strong wind blew the pink and purple hair flying. At the same time, lightning roared in the sky. Then there was the sound of wind and heavy drops of rain hitting the face. The awnings extending out from the low-rent houses were unable to stop the sudden heavy rain. Akane Shinjo didn't speak, she just silently took back her feet that wanted to step out of the room, and returned to Nangxiangshi's side indoors again. Are you satisfied? Nangxiangshi was probably reading a book at this time, and asked expressionlessly without raising his head. Shinjo Akane. Akane Shinjo's face became hot and she opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. This. Is it worth trying? It was windy, rainy and lightning was thundering outside. Want to escape from being surrounded by so much with just an umbrella? This is just a joke. Just when Shinjo Akane was about to say something else, Nangxiang, who was flipping through a book, spoke again. Does that mean you want to stay here tonight? The voice was calm, without any ripples. Akane Shinjo's pink lips moved, wanting to say something else, but when the words reached her lips, she swallowed them again and nodded in response. She discovered something. In front of Nangxiangshi. It seems like I can't hide all my little thoughts and ideas. No. It's not just that I can't hide them. Even in life, I am extremely strong towards others. In front of Nang Xiangxi, it seemed that he could only be submissive and act like a shrinking ostrich. She lowered her head, picked up the water glass, took a small sip, and was silent for a while. Then he asked Nang Xiang in a low voice, "What are you looking at?" Yes. From the very beginning, Nang Xiangxi had been flipping through the books in his hands. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu De Zi Wei. Chapter 145. What are you looking at? Akane Shinjo was a little curious. But besides being curious, she also had her own guesses. Anyway, he is called the devil of learning in and outside of school. The devil of Nangxiang must have read the kind of books that are particularly difficult to understand. It just so happens that I asked Nang Xiangxi about this to find out how to beat him next time. She asked. Over there, Nang Xiangxi spoke calmly. Textbook, review it a little bit. Why? Review. That big devil from Nangxiang? The big devil of Nangxiang who ranks first in the next grade and first in the national mock exam. Nangxiang Shishi can leave everyone behind with his academic talent alone. Need a refresher? This is too much. Because that's as ridiculous as saying the jaguars need to practice running. So Akane Shinjo couldn't help but open her mouth. But before the words came out, Nang Xiangxi seemed to already know what she was going to say, and took the initiative to show the book in his hand to Akane Shinjo. It is different from the ordinary Japanese high school students who record in their notebooks. When I was in Nangxiang, I filled the pages of the book with dense notes. But what surprised Shinjo Akane even more? What I recorded when I was in Nangxiang was not just the notes I took in class. Same. Outside of the classroom, teachers have no teaching role. Nang Xiangxi also recorded notes and his own understanding in a regular manner. Akane Shinjo was speechless at this time. It's no wonder that Nang Xiangxi easily ranked first in his grade in every test. He is already a genius in his own right, and coupled with his efforts, he is not inferior to anyone else. Akane Shinjo would be even more surprised if she didn't get first place in her grade in Nango. What kind of monster is this person? Looking at Nang Xiangxi, who continued to lower his head and indulge in the sea of study, not even paying attention to a perfect girl like her. Akane Shinjo sighed sincerely in her heart. Teacher Nangxiang is so awesome. No. Wrong. What's on your mind? Shinjo Akane. Akane Shinjo gently patted her cheek, which was already completely hot. Don't forget it. This is the guy who has been torturing you since school. You actually still have a crush on him. Although he did take you in, and he did help you with the manuscript of the novel, but, he also bullied you like that before. Do you feel something like admiration for someone who bullies you like this? Teacher Nangxiang? Akane Shinjo, is your brain completely broken? The little person in her mind started running around. She has always been the one taking the lead in school. She is the one who can truly lead other people's actions and feelings. She is Shinjo Akane. Then. New article. Yes. When she heard Nangoshi's voice, Akane Shinjo was sitting up, her back straight. Get up, I'm going to cook, you can help me. Nang Xiangxi spoke with commanding look. Good. Akane Shinjo agreed obediently, almost subconsciously. But soon, her mouth twitched. No. It shouldn't be like this. Obviously the correct development should be for Nangxiang to run forward and backward for himself and work for himself. And all I need to do is drink the drink happily and wait for Nangxiang to bring the prepared food. Why did he suddenly want to help Nang Xiangxi when he opened his mouth? Well. Never mind. Akane Shinjo glanced at Nangxiang with those Akane red eyes. Although Nangxiang was a bit annoying back then, at least the other party did help him a lot today. Akane Shinjo finally stood up, tied up her apron, came to Nangxiang's side, and spoke crisply. Nangxiang. Nango was thinking about what he should do tonight and glanced sideways at Akane Shinjo. What should I probably do? Akane Shinjo simply asked. Just help me out. You should be able to do simple tasks like peeling potatoes, right? Nangxiang Shi opened his mouth to answer. And this answer? Shinjo Akane, who was about to help, was also stunned for a while. She opened her mouth, is that all? What she understood as the starting point was that Nangxiang Shi was preparing today's main course, and she helped prepare side dishes such as miso soup. But in Nangxiang, she actually just asked her to help peel it. It's hard to avoid feeling like you're eating for free, right? I feel like I should help you more. Akane Shinjo expressed her stance very simply. Anyway, I'm here to help, so there's no need to be too lazy. She took the initiative. But Nangxiang Shi shook his head, no. Why? I always feel that the food you cook, Shinjo, will be unpalatable. So as long as you handle the ingredients, it's fine. Nangxiang Shi's face was full of suspicion and doubt. Huh? What are you talking about? This man? I don't know why, but there was doubt in Nangxiang's eyes when he noticed it. Akane Shinjo's originally calm mood was stirred up again. What's going on with this guy? Are you looking down on her, the perfect girl in school? Due to the perfect mask that she has been hiding outside, cooking is not that difficult for Akane Shinjo. And Shinjo Akane is making bento whenever she's in the mood. To be fair, Akane Shinjo didn't think that Nango Toki, who only knew how to learn, was better at cooking than her. I usually cook at home, and having me help will only make the meals more delicious. Akane Shinjo put down her bold words and looked extremely serious. I guess any boy of the same age. Seeing her expression, everyone would immediately nod in agreement and leave the entire responsibility to her. But don't want. Nangxiang Shi was still shaking his head. Shinjo Akane. Akane Shinjo opened her mouth wide. You've been speaking very carelessly since just now, and you feel like you're doing it with reluctance. Nangxiang Shi shook his head and said with outright disgust, even if it's just something as simple as miso soup, if it's not made with full heart, it won't be delicious. Don't waste my ingredients. You're still responsible for giving them to me, skin it. Shinjo Akane. She finally couldn't bear it anymore. She stood up directly and grabbed the spatula from Nangxiang without hesitation. Nangxiang, sit down for me. Just sit there and wait. Huh, after hearing this, Nangxiang couldn't help but look up at Akane Shinjo. I'm sitting and waiting? What about dinner? No need. I can do it all by myself. I don't think you can do it, so let me help you. Nangxiang Shi still seemed a little worried. He stood up with his eyebrows furrowed and said. I told you there's no need. Just sit there for me. Wait for me to prepare the meal. When she glared at Nango fiercely, Akane Shinjo rolled up her sleeves and started busy in front of the stove alone. Originally, she just planned to paddle around and make something to eat. But after being glanced at by Nangxiang Shi with a disgusted expression on his face, and then hearing his words, I don't think you can do it. She really felt like her blood pressure was going up. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi Iway. Chapter 146. Do. I'll just cook it for you to eat. Dishes that are so delicious that your tongue will swallow them. Do you still want my help? I don't even need your help when cooking. Shinjo Akane, who was working in front of the stove, was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Then 30 minutes have passed. How is it? Nangxiang. I made it. Shinjo Akane, who was using all her body and soul, panting heavily, brought her carefully prepared dishes to the table. The fried tempura is golden and neatly arranged. The miso soup is delicious and steaming hot. Simply pickled mint Iko tastes very refreshing. It's okay. Nan Xiangxi nodded. Apart from anything else, Akane Shinjo's cooking skills were indeed much better than those of the girls he knew around him. They are also very skilled in seasoning and handling of ingredients. The key is to be sincere. Nang Xiangxi glanced at the series of system prompts saying you have obtained a heart rate of 60 from Akane Shinjo. He nodded silently. In a sense, it is indeed full of heart. Snort. This time when Nang Xiang looked at her, she didn't make any other distasteful remarks, but just tasted her food without saying a word. A feeling of pride appeared in Akane Shinjo's heart. But she soon realized something was wrong. Wait. It's not right. Originally, Nang Xiangxi wasn't supposed to be making food for him, so he just had to give him a hand, right? How come I was so tired that I was sweating profusely in the end, yet I was sitting there eating so happily in Nang Xiang? Is this completely the opposite of what we expected before? Akane Shinjo looked at the dishes she had carefully prepared in front of her, her eyes glazed over. No. Could it be that Nang Xiangxi did it on purpose just now? Did you say that on purpose, to arouse her competitive spirit? Let her do all the cooking? Looking at the cooking bowls and chopsticks placed in front of her, Akane Shinjo couldn't help but look at Nangoshi. He still looked the same when he was in Nangxiang. While eating the meal she made, she looked at the phone screen expressionlessly, not knowing what she was thinking. Well, it's impossible. He looked at Nangxiang's quiet and steady face. Akane Shinjo felt that she might have thought too much again. If you want to say that among all the boys she knows, who is the one who least understands the inner world of girls, then there is no doubt that it is definitely Nangxiang time. How could a boy who really understands a girl's delicate heart say something like, I don't think it's possible, the food you cook is too unpalatable to a girl right from the start? Isn't this a joke? And think the other way around. He who understands Akane Shinjo's personality so well and can use it vividly to play with her. How much understanding of female emotions does this require? If that were the case, what kind of person would Nang Xiangxi be? Even if you have excellent academic performance, is your emotional intelligence incredibly high? It's really impossible. Akane Shinjo took a sip of the miso soup and felt warmth rising from her chest. Then she couldn't help but glance at Nango Toki with a narrow smirk. This kind of man with a wooden head, can't possibly think so much. Where in the world is there such a person? She thought so in her heart. Nang Xiang, who was sitting opposite her, glanced sideways at Akane Shinjo while eating the food she cooked. Even if he couldn't help but sigh in his heart at this moment. I also gave him heartbeat points and worked hard to cook food for him. This woman. Isn't it too easy to deceive? Chapter 129. There is nothing I can do against you, Nang Xiang, 4,000 words. The rain outside the window is still falling. After Nang Xiangxi washed the dishes and chopsticks, he started washing and brushing his teeth. Fortunately, he has the habit of stocking up daily necessities. It is not difficult for him to find a toothbrush for Shinjo Akane. After a simple wash, Nang Xiang lay down on the bed quite naturally under Akane Shinjo's complaining gaze, even looking at him with that look was useless. Being willing to take her in was already an extra kindness of his own. In addition to this, you also need to occupy your own bed. This is just a joke. Nango Toki is not the dull male protagonist in Japanese light novels or comics. I would rather force myself to sleep on the floor than let the heroine sleep on the bed. And let's be honest. With Akane Shinjo's character, she wouldn't feel grateful for Nango letting her sleep in her bed. On the contrary, based on this little girl's thoughts, she would most likely think that it was because of her extraordinary charm that even Nan Xiang had to bow at her feet. This is definitely not something Nang Xiang thought too much about. It was the conclusion that Nango Toki drew from the various reactions of Akane Shinjo through this day's observations. Completely different from Kazuri Godu, Ryo Yamada, and Chisunishi Kiki. The other party has a large friend group that is willing to help her, and there is no lack of communication with people on a daily basis. That perfect, sunny smile is a big killer in front of everyone. Almost everyone likes this girl who seems to be full of advantages. Nangxiang glanced at Akane Shinjo. At this time, the other party was gritting his teeth because of his neglect. He sat on the floor and muttered something to himself. But that's just seems. After a simulation and observations today, Nangxiang had already come to know a lot about Akane Shinjo. She has always hidden herself and made herself look very sunny on the outside. The sunshine on the outside is just her disguise. The vast community of friends is just an illusion. She longed for someone to come into her heart, but she was never willing to take the initiative to open her heart. Nangxiang she probably knew why he failed during the first simulation. That's because he acted too passerby. Just like Akane Shinjo's friends. For her coquettishness, unlimited satisfaction of her demands, unlimited tolerance, however, what Shinjo Akane needs is not like this. But she has long been used to being tolerant and satisfied. For Akane Shinjo, the Nango time she simulated was the same as those friends she had never opened her heart to. And wanted to really pry open the door to her heart. The first step is not to be like her large group of friends, you have to be someone who can leave a special impression on her heart. Even if it's a bad impression. In the end, everyone can only repeat the same mistakes. Thinking of this, Nangxiang said to Akane Shinjo next to him. New article. Why? I heard that you seem to have a lot of rare Tokusatsu drama Blu-ray discs hidden in your home. How did you know? Akane Shinjo blinked strangely and looked at Nangxiang. I want to see it, so you can bring me something from home tomorrow that you think looks good. Huh? Why? What's going on with this guy? If you want to see it, you have to ask her to bring it over? Why can you be so confident when asking others? Akane Shinjo opened her mouth, just about to refuse. But you are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 147. Please, Shinjo. While Nango was lying on the bed, he suddenly said this to Akane Shinjo with a particularly serious expression. The incandescent light was very eye-catching, but what caught Akane Shinjo's gaze even more than the light was perhaps Nangoshi's clean and somewhat clear eyes. At this time, he was looking at her very seriously. His handsome face and clean expression are like those of a monk who is inexperienced in the world. His pure and clean eyes are enough to make women willing to sneak into the temple and taste the forbidden fruit. Shinjo Akane. Do not know why. Akane Shinjo suddenly felt her heart beating very hard. She buried her head directly in the pillow and spoke in a vague tone, "It's up to you. By the way, I don't have any screening equipment here. If you have more DVDs, lend them to me." Nangxiang she spoke naturally. Ha. Any questions? Shinjo Akane. Akane Shinjo simply turned her face away, facing Nango Toki with only her back in sportswear. After a while, Nangxiang heard a vague words from her mouth, "I'll give it to you tomorrow." Very good. Understanding Akane Shinjo's hobbies is also part of the plan. Thinking of this, Nangxiangshi continued to speak with satisfaction, "By the way, Shintiao, I'm a little short of money recently. I need to pay for the tram fee to pick up DVDs and Blu-ray discs from your house. I'll give it. Can't I give it to you?" Shinjo Akane was really angry to death. She puffed up her cheeks in anger. When Akane's red eyes turned back to look at Nango, "Is there really such a man? You just enjoy bullying her, right? She was so angry that she tossed and turned on the floor. Nango Toki, who had already laid down again and turned off the light, didn't care about Shinjo Akane's little mood. It is enough to have a good relationship with Akane Shinjo in the simulation. The relationship between Akane Shinjo and him in reality does not need to be that close at all. On the contrary. A girl with such a troublesome personality. Nangxiang wished that he could be as far away from him in reality as possible. This time he also seized the opportunity. He just happened to take advantage of the other party's trouble on a rainy day, seize this opportunity, and force her to do things for him. There won't be such a good opportunity next time. And the conversation just now must have lowered the favorability of many new articles towards me. Although it may increase the difficulty of the simulation, leaving a bad impression is also part of the plan. After all, Nangxiangshi was extremely cold and disgusted with Akane Shinjo along the way. It is inevitable to reduce the favorability. Thinking of this, Nangxiangshi reached out and turned on the simulation system. He already had an idea. Instead of thinking about these useless things, he might as well start the second simulation quickly. Start simulation? The simulator prompts are still so simple and easy to understand. Nangxiang just glanced at it, and without hesitation, he pulled the simulated object away and directly pointed his finger at Akane Shinjo's name. Then, Nangxiangshi was stunned for a moment. In his sight, the current state of Akane Shinjo as the simulation object has changed. It was not the further drop in his favorability that he thought. But current simulation target, Akane Shinjo's status, slightly excited, slightly respected, slightly fearful. A little excited? Nangxiangshi couldn't help but open his mouth, and then looked at Akane Shinjo, who was sleeping on the ground with his back. No. Miss Shinjo? What are you doing? Nangxiang recalled his attitude towards Akane Shinjo along the way. A commanding tone that is cold, disgusting, particularly disgusting, and even bullying. To be honest, Nangxiang time comes from all the above adjectives. He couldn't find any reason why Shinjo Akane was attracted to him. Nangxiang looked at Akane Shinjo's eyes, which became a little strange. Xintiao, are you a TikTok? And the one who looks very strong on the outside but is actually very weak on the inside? Never mind. Nangxiangshi shook his head. There is no use thinking about this. The higher the favorability level, the higher it will be. It is also more conducive to simulation. Looking in front of me, do you want to start simulation? Options. Nangxiangshi chose yes without hesitation. Current simulation target, Akane Shinjo. Current heartbeat points, 600. When Nango received a lot of points from Miss Shinjo, after excluding the income, there were just 600 points left. In other words, there are still 2 chances to guarantee the bottom line. Nangxiangshi moved his eyes away from the heartbeat points and completely fell into the simulation. Simulation begins. Sudden heavy rainfall and typhoon landing flooded the world and trapped her in your room. Your indifference made her feel annoyed, your ignorance made her doubt her own charm, and your commanding tone made her feel at a loss. She, who is perfectly disguised, knows nothing about you, but you know everything about her because you have investigated her. But you, who are naturally confident, don't care about this at all, because you know very well that the only way to leave an impression on a girl who is used to the flattery of others is to use more radical methods. And you are also confident that with your handsome appearance and superb speaking skills and emotional intelligence, you will definitely be able to break the girl's closed heart, completely grasp her heart, and hold it in your hands. To do this, you decide to first understand her interests and hobbies. In the low-rent house, you took the opportunity when she was in trouble and borrowed her favorite Blu-ray disc of the Takyozatsu drama from her. Although she has some opinions on this, she still cannot refuse your request in the end. Similarly, during this period, you noticed that she, who seemed very strong on the outside, did not seem to be disgusted by your bullying, and was even slightly moved by your bullying. For this reason, you decide. 1. Are there girls with such eccentricities in the world? It's time to search online for more aggressive ways to bully her. Perhaps only by using this method can we truly open the door to her heart. 2. Everything should be done in moderation, continue to maintain the status quo, bully her at a moderate pace, and at the same time find out the reasons for Akane Shinjo's awkward personality. 3. A woman with such a strange personality is indeed inferior to me, Yamada Shinjo. 4. Free simulation. Following the usual excellent practice, Nangxiang ignored the free simulation and looked at the remaining options. To be honest, this time he was really in trouble. The third option is the simulator's daily guaranteed route to Yamada Ryo. This one can be ignored directly. As for the first option and the second option, look at these two. There was indeed some difficulty in Nangxiang. The first option seems very beastly, but with a little interpretation, it is actually to let him seize Akane Shinjo's awkward character and launch an attack on the girl's closed heart. But there is no doubt that this one can definitely be regarded as a dangerous move for soldiers. Akane Shinjo is a girl after all, and too much bullying may only make the other person keep a more distant distance from her. Nangxiang shifted his attention to the second item. The second option is much more prudent than the first option. Make progress slowly, understand the reasons first, and then consider the subsequent consequences. But again, this one also has the biggest problem. That is, there is no fierce and radical offensive like the first one. Just a simple boil the frog slowdown. Recalling Akane Shinjo's state of being slightly moved by herself, Nangxiang she thought for a while and finally chose one. Faced with a girl like Akane Shinjo who has an awkward personality and is unwilling to open her heart to anyone, perhaps the same drastic measures will make it easier to make progress. Having investigated Shinjo Akane, you are well aware of the awkwardness in her personality. Being surrounded by others and offering false blessings and applause is just a daily routine for a girl. You don't want to fall into the same rhythm and route as a passerby. You feel that only by increasing your strength can you pry open her closed heart. To this end, you made a special trip to the internet to search for a lot of information, and began to bully her without restraint, who seemed tough on the outside but was actually very weak. You will ask her to treat you to dinner from time to time, and you will continue to ask her to borrow DVDs of Takyozatsu dramas to watch sometimes. You will even ask Akane Shinjo to borrow money to buy bass music for Yamada Ryo. But equally, you have not forgotten to release your kindness in your daily life. Although she often treats guests to dinner, you will also invite Akane Shinjo to your home to have dinner together, watch Takyozatsu dramas together, and play a good guitar song for her when she is in a good mood. Moreover, when you ask her to borrow money, she will basically borrow it and repay it. She will feel annoyed and angry because of your unscrupulous bullying, but at the same time she will feel sincerely happy because of your sincere kindness to her. Because these are emotions she has never experienced before. Close your eyes when you are in Nangxiang. The scene in the simulation, the sea of memories rolled in my mind. The location is a low-rent house in Nangxiang. Give me some money, Shinjo. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 148. Taking out the Blu-ray disc of Kamen Rider Ryuki that had finished showing from the DVD, Nango Toki spoke without looking back. Ah. Akane Shinjo frowned. You want money again? Didn't I just lend you 30,000 yen last time? I can't help it. Life has been really tight lately, so give me money. Nangxiang glanced at her sideways and spoke in a very matter-of-fact tone. Huh? I borrowed it, right? I really can't do anything to you. Akane Shinjo frowned, and even though she was a bit disgusted, she still took out her wallet and counted out 30,000 yen from it, and handed it to Nangxiang. When looking at Nangxiang, he ignored himself and just counted the yen in his hand. I don't know why, but just looking at this scene, Akane Shinjo's lips curled up into a smile. 30,000 yen is not enough. Shinjo. There's nothing we can do about you, Nangxiang. Akane Shinjo blinked Akane's red eyes, sighed, and took out her wallet again. Chapter 130. Except you, 4,100 words. Nangxiangshi. In reality, Nangxiangshi, who was still lying on the small bed in his low-rent house, came back from the simulation. He glanced at the information in the simulation, and couldn't help but glance at Akane Shinjo who was sleeping on the floor. There was some silence for a while. Miss Shinjo, it turns out you still like this style. Lying on the floor bed with most of her body covered, Akane Shinjo seemed to notice something. Akane's red eyes turned to look at Nangxiang strangely. Is something wrong? She asked simply. I'm thirsty, bring me a glass of water. Nangxiangshi pointed to the faucet on the other side. Ah! Wouldn't it be better to go by yourself? Akane Shinjo complained, her delicate and beautiful face full of reluctance. But Nangxiangshi didn't say anything, just stared at her for a long time. All right. Being stared at by Nangxiangshi was full of discomfort. Akane Shinjo muttered something unknown, filled the water glass and handed it to Nangxiangshi. Nangxiangshi took the water glass and drank it, then looked at Akane Shinjo who was about to lie down. What are you going to do again? Since you took the cup, you naturally put it back. Nangxiangshi spoke matter-of-factly and pointed at the cup. Shinjo Akane. Akane Shinjo glared at Nango fiercely, then gritted her teeth, took the cup from his hand, and placed it heavily on the shelf beside the stove. She exhaled heavily, and then couldn't help but look at Nangxiang, just as she was about to say something. Then. New article. Nangxiangshi spoke again. Again. Something. What? Something. Akane Shinjo gritted her teeth. This guy really just slaps his nose and eyes without any care, right? She had already decided that no matter what Nangxiangshi said or did, she would ignore him. Then. Thanks. Nangxiangshi suddenly spoke with a serious expression. Well. Akane Shinjo opened her mouth, and the emotion that was already occupied by shame and anger on her beautiful face stopped for a moment. Then her face turned red, she turned away a little awkwardly, and muttered. At least you know how to say thank you. Of course. Nangxiangshi glanced at her naturally. Then Shintiao, can you help me wash the cup again? It's really, there's nothing we can do about you, Nangxiang. Although Akane Shinjo was still a little awkward, she didn't say anything this time. She stood up, washed the cup from which she just drank water, and put it in the sink. Then Nangxiangshi sighed as he watched her get wrapped up in the quilt again. It's so coaxing, Miss Shinjo. Judging from the other party's current behavior, it's no wonder that Shinjo Akane in the simulation indulges him in every possible way. Nangxiangshi shook his head and did not continue thinking. He turned his attention back to the simulation page and continued reading. Shinjo Akane is still very strong when dealing with others, but when it comes to you, Shinjo Akane is a little too indulgent. You gradually discover the reason for all this. Because she has been surrounded by everyone and loved by everyone, but she is actually very lonely. She is always surrounded by flowers and applause from her friends, but those are just false flowers and applause that she gains from her sunshine. No friends are willing to get to know her deeply, and similarly, she has never revealed her true self to these friends. And these are completely different from you. You will blame her for doing something wrong, and similarly, you will ignore her sometimes unreasonable little temper. And the most important thing is, you have never treated her with a false attitude. Every word you say, every word and every deed, reveals your true heart. And this kind of behavior deeply moved her, who used disguise and mask as a protective color. She is just pretending to be herself. She has never had a frank and straightforward character like you. It is precisely because of the lack of possession that, in a sense, she longs for replenishment. Although she was not interested in you at first, during the active contact, she became more and more yearning for you. The days when Akane Shinjo comes to your home gradually become more frequent. Sometimes she comes over to cook a meal, sometimes she comes over to bring her favorite takyozatsu dramas, and sometimes she just wants to chat with you. Sometimes, because you will go to the Star Showroom or the Rico Rico Cafe and cannot wait for you, she will stand in front of the door and send you many line messages to express that she is angry. But after a while, she will be comforted by your few words and regain a good mood for the day. Considering that she is only a girl, it is sometimes inconvenient to come over in the middle of the night. You thought about it and handed her the spare key to the low-rent house. That day happened to be her birthday. In the simulation, countless memories outline the scene, and characters emerge from the scene. Still in a low-rent house. The time was probably winter in January, around 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Nango Toki and Akane Shinjo did not wear uniforms, but put on thick down jackets. What are you eating today? Lying on Nang Xiangshi's bed. While flipping through the popular fashion magazines and biting potato chips, Akane Shinjo turned her head and asked Nang Xiangshi, who was sitting at the table. Just watch and do it. There are ingredients in the refrigerator. Hey? You want me to cook again? Akane Shinjo frowned. Your kitchen is very small, so cooking is very troublesome. Okay. She grumbled beside her. But when he looked at Nang Xiang, he looked at him with his usual indifferent attitude. She had no choice but to sigh, stand up, clapped her hands, came to the stove, then lowered herself and started to check. Ah, there's no cooking oil. Akane Shinjo blinked, not expecting that things would happen like this. There is a convenience store not far from here. Nan Xiangshi tilted his head and said, I just want to go out, let's go together. Want to go out together? Shinjo Akane's steps became a little brisk, and she soon arrived in front of Nang Xiang with her plump and slender legs. Seeing that he was still looking down at the book, he simply stretched out his hands and hugged Nang Xiang with one hand. Let's go, let's go. Don't rush me. I'll finish reading this chapter first. By the way, I'm a little tight on money recently. Regarding transportation expenses, new items. Nan Xiangshi glanced at his book and spoke. Okay, I know, I can just go out, right? And I remember that Nang Xiang, your mobile phone bill is about to be overdue, right? I'll help you pay it together. Quickly pack up, let's go. Let's go. Akane Shinjo smiled and pulled Nangashi's arm. Nang Xiangshi. Nan Xiangshi shook his head, finally unable to resist Akane Shinjo, who had been pulling him with a smile. He stood up, put on his scarf and gloves at the same time. The two of them went out together. Next to her, Akane Shinjo breathed out her hot breath against her fingertips that were slightly red from the cold, while continuing to show her perfect smile. Speaking of which, why did Nang Xiang want to go out with me today? You must know that in Nang Xiang, except for Fangxing and Li Ke alike, they basically stay at home and don't go out much. If Nang Xiang hadn't always had the habit of getting up early for a run, Akane Shinjo would have thought he was a homebody and stayed at home. Such Nang Xiangshi was actually willing to go out with her today. Thinking of this, Akane Shinjo's steps became even more brisk. When faced with her question, Nan Xiangshi's attitude was still simple. I have something to do when I go out. Oh? What are you going to do? While rubbing her fingertips that were red from the cold, Akane Shinjo asked curiously. You'll find out later. Nang Xiang didn't say anything, he just pulled up his scarf to block the cold wind. Tokyo is cold in winter. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 149. Just walking out the door, you can clearly feel the cold wind blowing on your face. Since Nangxiang was wearing a scarf and gloves, the situation was slightly better. As for Akane Shinjo next to her, she rarely pays attention to such details in daily life, not to mention scarves and gloves. So from just now until now, she has been rubbing her white palms, and from time to time, she uses the remaining warmth of her palms to warm her ears that are already red from the cold. I'll find out later, huh? Don't do this. People will be very curious. Akane Shinjo tried to break the casserole and ask the question. Arrive. Nangxiang she suddenly spoke. Arrive. Akane Shinjo looked at the buildings around her strangely. It's not a convenience store near Shijiya in Nangxiang, but a gift shop with elegant decoration. Ah! That's it again. Akane Shinjo glanced at the gift shop and couldn't help but shake her head. When he was in Nangxiang, he would often buy some gadgets for the female friends he knew. Akane Shinjo knew this very well. After all, Nangxiang she basically only asked her to borrow money, and Nangxiang she had no intention of hiding the existence of those female friends from her. The situation this time is probably similar. Shinjo Akane was originally in a happy mood, but at this moment, she became inexplicably quiet. I wonder who you were picking out gifts for when you were in Nangxiang? Is it the pink-haired one? Or the one with blonde hair? Or is it the one with black hair? The one with blue hair? No wonder this guy said he was a little short on transportation expenses. The things in this gift shop look very expensive. Akane Shinjo's mood became a little worse. Mainly because she didn't know why her mood was getting worse. After all, Nangxiang and her were friends at best. It's not a relationship between boyfriend and girlfriend. Nangxiang she is free to give gifts to whomever he wants, right? Shinjo Akane couldn't help but think wildly. But before she could finish thinking, she saw Nangxiang she waved to her on the other side, and then she heard what Nangxiang she said to the store manager. Sorry, she gave me the money. Please wrap it up for me. Sure enough, this is still the case. Shinjo Akane numbly counted out the corresponding amount from her bag and paid it to the store manager. If it were normal times, she would probably have to say a few words to Nangxiang. But after the random thoughts just now, she no longer even had the idea to ridicule Nangxiang. After paying the money in a daze, the two left the gift shop and continued walking forward step by step. The most annoying thing was that Nangxiang she didn't even take the gift bag and let her hold it. Use your own money to buy gifts for other girls. Do you want to hold it yourself? At this time, Akane Shinjo had the urge to put the gift bag on the ground and leave it alone. But in the end, she still didn't dare to make such an action to express her dissatisfaction in front of Nangxiang she. What if I do that, and get disliked by him? Just thought of this. Shinjo Akane subconsciously clenched the gift bag, and a smile appeared on her face subconsciously when she looked at Nangxiang. Nangxiang, I just have time now, so I'm going to help you pay the outstanding balance of your phone bill. Sample. Good. Nangxiang nodded with half of his face hidden under his scarf, but before that. Why don't you put on your scarf and gloves? Isn't it cold? Nangxiang turned his gaze and looked at Akane Shinjo in confusion. Why? Akane Shinjo opened her mouth. Scarf? Gloves? She stood there stunned for a while. Then, when Akane Shinjo saw Nango with her beautiful eyebrows furrowed, she stretched out her hand to take out the contents of the gift bag. Take advantage of the lights on the road. She just happened to see the neatly stacked brown plaid scarves and the thick woolen gloves placed next to them. Why? Akane Shinjo's expression became dull again. She opened her mouth, and her brain seemed to be incomprehensible. Well, this is not a gift you give to your female friends. What are you saying? Nangxiang she couldn't help but glance at Akane Shinjo. This was originally the birthday gift I picked for you. Don't you have a scarf and gloves? Birthday. You didn't even forget your birthday, right? Shinjo. Shinjo Akane. Yes. Akane Shinjo remembered. Today is January 2nd. It happened to be her birthday. She froze in place. Jin Nangxiang also frowned and walked over with doubt on his face. Don't you have any friends to celebrate your birthday? Shintiao. I. Akane Shinjo opened her mouth. But the words he wanted to say were stuck in his mouth. As mentioned before, she has never opened her heart to others, so she has no habit of publicizing her birthday. When was the last time you celebrated your birthday? Akane Shinjo had long forgotten. So when I heard Nangxiang say, "Don't you have any friends?" after the words, Akane Shinjo was stunned at first. Then she subconsciously hugged the scarf and gloves in her arms tightly, and secretly glanced at Nangxiangshi. The other party still looked a little confused, and his gaze didn't shift in the slightest. Don't have friends? Akane Shinjo muttered these words. Then he muttered very quietly. Aren't you still here? What? Nangxiangshi didn't hear clearly and looked over. Nothing. Akane Shinjo readjusted her emotions, and then put on her gloves and scarf. Under the neon light, she raised her gloved hands and smiled like a child when she asked Nangxiang. How is it? Does it look good? Nangxiang. Under the light. The girl's smile was extremely bright. That was a real smile that no one except Nangxiangshi had ever seen, with her disguise completely removed. Chapter 131. You and her became a couple, 4,100 words. You quickly paid back the money you gave Shinjo Akane for the gloves and scarf. When you did so, you didn't forget to hand over the key to your low-rent house, even though Shinjo Akane made it clear that she didn't need you pay off this part of the debt. But you don't agree with this. For you, the borrowed money is still borrowed and needs to be repaid. Similarly, during the days of constant contact with Akane Shinjo, you have become acutely aware that the pocket money that a young girl has at her disposal is too generous for an ordinary high school girl. Even Ms. Yamada, who is considered a wealthy elite in Tokyo, seems to be completely inferior to Akane Shinjo in terms of the amount of money she can spend. In her small purse, if you glance around from time to time, you can find a lot of 10,000 yen banknotes lying there. Looking at this line of text description, Nangxiang subconsciously raised his head and looked in the direction of Akane Shinjo. The incandescent lamp has been turned off at this time. In the darkness, he could only vaguely see the outline of Akane Shinjo's body. He actually had a question he wanted to ask Akane Shinjo today. That's why Akane Shinjo didn't inform her parents about her sleepover. You know, Akane Shinjo is a girl. She has a cute appearance and a figure that is much plumper than that of ordinary high school students. Even her disguised personality is sunny and cheerful. Aren't her parents worried about a girl like this who is able to attract countless members of the opposite sex and stay out all night? This problem is not a big one. You must know that the school spirit of Oka High School is very strict. If the school finds out that a female student stays in the boys' room and stays up all night, she will be severely punished and placed on probation. But considering that I have just met Akane Shinjo, I am not particularly familiar with her. Coupled with the sudden heavy rainfall and typhoon, there was no choice but to leave her at home. That's why Nangxiang didn't ask these questions. But just because he doesn't ask, doesn't mean these problems don't exist. Nangxiangshi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 150. Nango looked at Akane Shinjo, who seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep, and then turned his gaze to Mimic again. I hope I can get the answers to these puzzles in this simulation. He sank into the simulation. The days continue to move backward. In school, she still chooses to hide herself and rarely meets you occasionally. She will just say hello to you with a smile that is a little brighter than others. You have no objection to this, because you know clearly that this is the disguise she has always had outside. But at the same time, you can also feel that Shinjo Akane will have the urge to talk to you in school when her class is in physical education class. Even when surrounded by friends in gym class, her eyes will look towards you from time to time. The crowd around her is a high wall that restricts her from communicating with you. She is standing inside the wall, and you are standing outside the wall. But she can't destroy this wall as the girl who is popular with everyone in the school. She can only maintain a fake, almost perfect smile. Similarly, getting along with friends also makes her cherish the time alone with you. No matter who I face, I need to disguise myself. My tense face is so relaxed only when I face you. Your attitude towards her has not changed much, which makes her a little discouraged, but equally, your sincere treatment from beginning to end also makes her feel at ease. Getting along with you makes her feel more fun in life. Similarly, the spare key to the low-rent house you gave her also paved the way for her. Sometimes when you come home from practicing at Stars and running the Rico Rico Cafe, you can always see her standing next to the TV, yawning and watching the Takyozatsu drama playing on the TV. Sometimes you go home early and fall asleep early, and the next morning when you wake up, you can see her sleeping on the floor. The memories in the simulation began to flow. Still in a low-rent housing room, Nan Xiang opened his eyes when he woke up from his sleep. What caught his eye was the already laid floor and the familiar short pink and purple hair. Nang Xiangxi. Nang Xiang glanced at the girl who was sleeping quietly on her side. I don't know what time the other party came last night. His sleeping profile looked even fairer and more beautiful in the morning light. Nang Xiangxi shook his head and didn't care. He just got up and put on his clothes, getting ready to go out for exercise. Are you going out? A confused voice came from behind. Nang Xiang looked back subconsciously. Only then did he realize that Akane Shinjo had not woken up, but that his wife was just talking in her sleep. She stood up with her eyes closed, grabbed Nang Xiangxi's sleeves, and said to her husband who was about to go out. Remember, bring some ginger back, I want to eat ginger roasted pork today. Okay. I heard Nang Xiang's response. Only then did a look of relief appear on Akane Shinjo's face. She released her white fingers that were holding Nang Xiangxi's sleeves, and retracted her body into the bed again, falling asleep quietly. Nang Xiangxi looked at her sleeping appearance and couldn't help but shake his head. He reached out and touched her hair before changing into clothes and going out for a morning run. Check in frequently and let her start actively decorating your cabin. She specially purchased a good LCD TV for the two of you to watch special dramas. The original small refrigerator was replaced by a large refrigerator she bought. If the room hadn't been too small, she would have even wanted to buy another small bed, so that she wouldn't have to make the floor. She starts to decorate with excitement. At the same time, she will ask your opinion with a smile and put things that suit your taste. Similarly, because she is young, beautiful, and has a sunny and outgoing personality, she often visits your low-rent house. Rumors began to circulate among the tenants that you had a walk-in wife. Walking wife, a common saying in Japanese, means a relationship between a couple who is already living together although they are not married yet. Regarding these rumors that started to circulate, Shinjo Akane didn't seem angry, but instead felt vaguely happy. That night, she made a special trip to cook a lot of meals. Your small low-rent house has unknowingly become her spiritual haven. Although she has long been accustomed to pretending in front of outsiders, that kind of disguise always brings her some mental pressure. Although it is only part of the mental pressure, it can accumulate to become an incomparable burden. And with your presence, this constant mental burden can finally be vented. Very good. Very good. Nang Xiang, who was observing from outside, nodded secretly in his heart. It seems that my first option was not wrong. At least for now, Akane Shinjo's relationship with him can be said to be making steady progress. Same. Nang Xiangxi probably understood why Akane Shinjo chose to end her life by taking medicine in the end. The mental pressure that had accumulated since high school made her mentally overwhelmed. Except for Zhumo Nangxiang, she has never found anyone who treats her sincerely. Then, this heavy pressure builds up from high school to college. I have been working since college. The mask on his face weighed 1,000 pounds at this moment. And she finally couldn't bear the burden and chose to take medicine to end her life. The ending of last week's episode, Akane Shinjo, was undoubtedly extremely tragic. The only Nangxiang who really liked her was driven away by her with a perfunctory attitude, and then she faced endless pressure alone. After experiencing the pressure in life and work, she will naturally miss the Nangxiang who really liked her. But remembering it is meaningless. Facing the heavy pressure in life and spirit, this girl with a little devil-like character finally failed to support her and collapsed in her own home. But this time it was completely different. Having Nan Xiangxi by her side during this week virtually relieved her of a lot of mental pressure. This is very stable. Nang Xiangxi continued to look down. Her relationship with you is making steady progress. Everything seems to be going in a good direction. Nangxiang time. After taking a deep look at that seeming, Nang Xiangxi continued to observe the movements in the simulation. Similarly, she also gradually realized that in front of you, she actually didn't need to disguise herself at all, although she would still subconsciously pretend to have a perfect smile and cute personality. Your occasional kindness and always sincerity can still make her happy, but while she is happy, she will also feel sudden uneasiness and fear. The fake smile and character brought you your sincerity, but she never showed her true heart in front of you. This is a completely unbalanced relationship. If the mask is worn on the face for a long time, it will become impossible to take it off. Shinjo Akane can't imagine what kind of expression and attitude you would have towards her if you knew her true side. She begins to feel genuinely uneasy. She didn't dare to think about it deeply. Because she clearly knows that a relationship maintained only by false smiles and false personalities is actually very fragile. And this inner uneasiness also prompts her to be more tolerant of your behavior and unconditionally agree with any attitude you have. She is so afraid of losing you that a simple act of borrowing money can no longer fill the uneasy hole in her heart. Not to mention that there are so many girls beside you who are not inferior to her in appearance and talent. Finally, one night, while sitting at the table and watching you eat, she revealed her true feelings to you. Nangxiang. As Nangxiang finished the food bit by bit, Akane Shinjo called out to him. It was completely different from her usual self-conscious smile. Shinjo Akane seemed a little anxious today, and Akane's red eyes when she looked at Nango from time to time also carried a hint of panic. What's the matter? Shintiao. Nangxiang, who was looking down at the food, spoke up. It's that. Akane Shinjo hesitated for a long time before speaking. Many tenants outside are now saying that I am your walking wife. When she talked about this topic, a blush appeared on her fair face. Yeah. Nangxiangxi obviously thought of this, so he nodded. I understand. Since you are not willing, Shinjo, then I will go out and tell them the whole story later. Shinjo Akane. That's not what I'm talking about. Akane Shinjo's always perfect smile showed flaws for the first time in Nangxiang. She hesitated and stammered, what I mean is, I don't want to elaborate, there's no problem, I don't care, just a walking wife or something. Really? But it's not okay. After all, Shinjo, you are a girl too. Nangxiangxi glanced at Akane Shinjo, and then said, for girls, reputation is the most important thing. After I finish eating, I still have to go and talk about it myself. This guy. Seeing Nangxiang's unhesitating look, Akane Shinjo gritted her teeth. She clearly told her that she didn't care. Why are you still making your own decisions? Do I have to say that I am happy to have that kind of relationship with you? And why don't you hesitate? This is my chance to become your walking wife. Don't you hesitate. Thinking of this, Akane Shinjo was a little angry, and then she stood up with a snap. Actually, there is only one thing I want to say. What do you want to say? Nangxiangshi turned around and looked. Well. It was also under this gaze when he was in Nangxiang. Akane Shinjo stood up just now, her face full of anger. At this moment, I lost the courage to speak to him loudly again, and could only stammer and speak softly. I want to say, anyway, it's already like this. Should we, give it a try to date? My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 151. Say it, say it. Really said it? Shinjo Akane blushed and looked at Nango, waiting for his answer. Then. Do you want to try dating? The voice of Nangxiangshi came. To Akane Shinjo's ears, he continued to speak as if he was deliberately causing trouble. If you are really reluctant, Shinjo, you don't have to be so reluctant. Woo. Akane Shinjo, a little devil who looks strong on the outside but is very weak on the inside. After hearing Nangxiangshi's words at this moment, I finally couldn't hold back any longer. She simply grabbed Nangxiangshi's hand and said angrily. I'm not forcing you. I'm not forcing you. Okay. Usually people who say this are talking about the opposite. I didn't say anything sarcastic. Akane Shinjo's face turned red. Adhering to the principle that she had already been embarrassed anyway, so she had to speak clearly no matter what, she simply closed her eyes and declared with self-deprecation. I like you. Nangxiang. Date me. That's alright. Damn it. Why did this guy have to force himself to say such shameful words? After she spoke, she didn't get a reply for a long time. This made her subconsciously open her eyes and look at Nangxiang. Coincidentally, Nangxiangshi was also looking at her at this time. Eyes facing each other. Akane Shinjo's heartbeat gradually accelerated. But she was unable to escape and could only watch Nangxiang getting closer and closer. Then, when she saw Nangxiang, she stretched out her index finger, pointed at her, and spoke seriously. Say it again, Shinjo. You really should die. Angrily, Shinjo Akane pulled the pillow from the bed and smashed it directly into Nango Toki's face. Chapter 132. The script that the weirdos will win didn't exist in the first place. 4,100 words. You and her became a couple. While this made her sincerely happy, it also made her more positive and unrestrained in some aspects. She urgently needs other closer behaviors to bring her closer to you. On the second day after becoming a couple with you, she directly told you that you can actually go to bed later today. After being rejected by you without hesitation, she felt very angry. In the simulation, the sea of memory flows quietly. I do not care. Akane Shinjo, who was lying on the bed in the low-rent apartment, turned her head away and said angrily, that's what lovers do. It's not strange at all. That is also based on more contacts. Nangxiang, who was reading a book, raised his head and glanced at Akane Shinjo. I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. I just don't care. I just want it. You don't want to sleep tonight. Shinjo Akane, wearing black socks, kicked her legs randomly on the bed, venting her little temper. Seeing her like this, Nangxiangshi could only shake his head slightly. Then, he stood up and said directly, don't even think about sleeping tonight, right? Absolutely, Akane Shinjo said angrily, it has to be done today anyway, I'm already prepared, dash. When it comes to the back part, the ending sound is prolonged, and the legs in black socks stand still. At the same time, Qianhong's eyes widened. She wanted to say something more. But the soft cherry pink lips had been blocked by Nang Xiangshi's mouth. After a while. What are you doing all of a sudden? Shinjo Akane was originally strong. Akane's red eyes softened at this moment, but she still refused to forgive and muttered. Isn't this what you want? Shinjo. Nang Xiangxi sat down next to her and expressed his position very simply, since you want to do it, just do everything you need to do today. Gudu. Akane Shinjo swallowed. The originally fair face immediately turned red after hearing these words. On the other hand, I would like to ask. Nang Xiang put her plump legs wrapped in black stockings on his knees. While massaging gently with his hands, he asked calmly, do you know that as a young man with a healthy body and mind, he has to face you who is very beautiful and cute every day, how can he endure it? Shinjo Akane tilted her head to one side. She actually receives compliments and compliments on her appearance every day. Regarding these compliments, her mentality generally does not change at all, as usual. But for some reason, Nang Xiangxi just spoke like this. A completely different feeling than usual emerged from my chest. Sweet. Happy. Happiness. Or is it all three? Akane Shinjo didn't know how to describe this feeling. She just turned her head away with a groan. Is that so? Since you are facing such a beautiful and lovely me, shouldn't you take action more quickly? It's just because I take it seriously that I'm not in a hurry to take action against you. Hey, is that so? Ahem. Shinjo Akane was stunned for a moment, and then a feeling of joy emerged from her heart. So I'm asking for your opinion now. Nan Xiangxi put her legs down and said simply, do you really mean what you said? Shinjo Akane. Listening to Nangashi's words, Shinjo Akane fell silent. Do you really want to do it sincerely? Or is it just because you want to get closer to Nang Xiangxi? She probably couldn't understand it at first. But now, after hearing what Nan Xiangxi said, she placed her feet in black socks on Nan Xiangxi's knees again. Lying on the bed, her crimson eyes were watery and full of tenderness, as if Nang Xiangxi was drowning in them. I want it, Nang Xiang. He stood up, put his arms around Nan Xiangxi's neck, and looked at him before speaking. And heard this sentence. Nang Xiangxi did not hesitate any longer. He lowered his body and put his arms around Akane Shinjo's slender waist. Everything that happened next, at this moment, everything became natural. This evening, you actively discussed the mysteries of the human body until very late. Compared to ordinary high school students, her body is plumper and more plump, allowing you to realize the charm of the human body. She almost unconditionally agrees to your request and actively cooperates with it. Your relationship with Akane Shinjo has deepened. In reality, looking at this line of text description and the memory received in my mind, Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but rub his temples. Although the memory in my mind can be said to be very vivid. However, it is more or less a pity that a physically and mentally healthy young person cannot simulate it in person. Of course Nang Xiang was not greedy for Akane Shinjo's body. He was just curious. How to simulate this personal simulation of the system? Next time. Nang Xiang thought so. After Akane Shinjo this time, she still had to save some heartbeat points to see what it would be like to spend 4 personal simulations. After making up my mind a little bit, Nang Xiangxi continued to look at the simulation. He was now curious about where this route would eventually lead. Especially the relationship with Shinjo Akane has improved. Shinjo Akane seemed too anxious. Similarly, this also shows that the uneasiness in her heart is so strong. Although it's just a guess. But Nango felt that Akane Shinjo's inner uneasiness might become a hidden danger in the future. You feel very strange about Akane Shinjo's anxious attitude. Because even if they are a couple, it seems too anxious to start doing this kind of thing on the second day of dating. Similarly, you have never heard Akane Shinjo mention anything about her family so far. Besides, A female high school student often stays overnight at boys' homes. This alone is unnatural enough. Why didn't she have a single phone call with her parents? Why do you pretend to be someone else? For this reason, you decide.